as part of the planning committee for this meeting, I had this idea that maybe we would have these tiny talks. We wanted some people to share why they signed up for Link and why they thought it was an important step for Loretto. And it backfired on me. Someone asked me to do one, and it hasn't been easy, but I'm so glad to have had the opportunity really to think about civil incorporation and Loretto Link and where we are now with it, and to imagine where we might be in the future. So I've had the chance to help out with a small group that kind of did the transition between the committee, the Civil Incorporation Committee, and the current board, which is an interim board. And then I helped write the bylaws, which I'm not sure why I raised my hand for that. I knew nothing about bylaws, but that was a very positive experience. And then planning for this weekend has been wonderful, and all of those experiences have been times of really getting to know the other people, even though I knew them before in a different way. And we started each gathering with a reflection, spiritual reflection that was rich, and we'll be weaving some of those into this weekend. And so that's kind of what happened and why I'm here. And I think Loretto Link fits right in with emerging forms, the notion of emerging forms. We talk about shared futures. We've been talking about responsible planning for the future, and to me, Loretto Link is all of those things. And I think it's an important step in the Loretto community's evolution into the future, when those of us who are here today participating won't be here, and others will follow in the Loretto footprints, in our heritage and our history of being people who see the big picture, who want to live consciously, who want to be awake to the sacred in this world. And to me, it's not so much about what we do. I've heard several people say, well, what will we do? What will we focus on? And we will do things, we will focus on things, but for me, the most important part is the process and the way we work together, the way we don't have the constrict of canon law that vowed members have, but that vowed members will be part of this all the way along as much as possible and as much as people choose to be, and that the leadership and decision making is going to come from everybody who wants to be a part of that will be able to do that with Link. And that's the way we've been operating so far, and I have every reason to know that that's the way we will continue. So that's kind of where I am.
I've been asked to talk a little bit about Link, and I thank you for this opportunity. I'm always happy to talk about Loretto. I keep thinking of the phrase, what's in a name? And I think of the names I've known and used. First was Auntie Big Hat, Sisters of Loretto, co-members, friends, staff, and on and on. I know I used to ask whether somebody was a sister or a co-member. I now find that's not as important to me. I far prefer to know someone's given name and hopefully remember it. When I hear the name Loretto, I think of strength, courage, peace, justice, intelligence, happiness, fun, challenging, articulate, testing limits, rising above, raising up others, respect, learning, teaching. Oh, I could go on and on. I guess what I'm trying to say is that names are important as long as they are not limiting. For me, the title part of names have blurred. This is not to say that the respect that goes with the title is not well deserved. I have just come to find given names more special now. Now we have some vowed members who devoted and continue to devote their lives to the mission of Loretto. They have a safety net. They deserve this. They have earned it. I want them to continue to have it, and we'll work to make sure that happens. We also need to appreciate the others who are devoting much of their lives to the mission of Loretto, knowing that they must create their own safety net. This is their and our choice, and in reality, they know that Loretto has often helped them and will continue to do that. I suppose we need names to help us keep things organized. We have a new name, Link, to add to the Loretto vocabulary. The neat part about this new name is that it does not have meanings of limitations or divisions for me. While I honor each member of Loretto for their commitment and work, I no longer need to restrict any of them by title. In the past, this has served to deepen my understanding of Loretto, and now that I no longer need these titles, as they have become limiting. When I think of what Link could be, I try to open the borders of my mind. We have such good examples of structures on which to build. I am the way is, of course, at the root. I know that Link, like every organization, will need a framework, but I hope that somehow this framework has many holes for new creative directions that we do not know at this time. I want to have room to grow and not be restricted. As long as we are moving in the direction set for us by Loretto, we're okay. I hope that Link members have more of a multicultural mix. The Loretto community's work is very multicultural, but its membership as of now is not. This is a little sad for me. For me, actions rather than words are important, but I honor the word people. I hope that Link helps both aspects, helps word people find their voice and action people find support for their work. I also know that there is no way for everyone to agree on anything. I hope that most of the Link members will be able to find a way to see our connectedness, not our differences, or trying to protect a particular idea or experience. Let us be open and appreciate each other. I do feel that if Link continues to make room for different kinds of people, then Link, the Loretto community, the Loretto congregation, just Loretto will continue to live and be strong and make this earth a better place. Thank you.
I believe we need an organization that comes along in the wake of Loretto and beside Loretto to continue what Loretto has been doing for 200 years and more. And the values that I see us using are the very ones expressed in the Loretto Constitution. I am the way. At one point I thought, well, for this tiny talk, I'll just sit down and read I am the way. But because that's the heart of all of it, and the gospel truth is the heart of all of it. So I'm believing that most people who hear this or who are at the meeting where we show it have read I Am the Way. And I know we have known women, vowed members of Loretto and co-members, who have lived incredibly faithful, rich, generous lives using those values. I think it helps us see how to live together and how to live as individuals. One thing I would like to encourage that I know is difficult for organizations of people to do is to have something set up inside Link. First of all, encouraging all of us to come together with trust and with openness and believing that the universe, the higher power, God, whoever, whatever name you use for the source of all things, is calling us together and calling us specifically together at this time and in this place because of who we are and what we know and what we have to offer. So first of all, I think we should continue to value extremely the life of each member and to value each member as they are. And secondly, I think so that we can not make wounds and then make them worse when something goes awry, when disagreements happen that are painful, when people lose trust, that we find a way to collect a group of people whose gifts and training it is to help people reconnect after a time of brokenness and mistrust, can meet with people, not for the sake of having a court case to say who's right and who's wrong and who's in and who's out, but to say, what in the world is going on? And let's figure out together how we go through this together, how we gain from the truth of the different people involved, and we know more than we would know separately, and then we find a way to put it to work in our larger group. Because when we don't do that, we start making splinters and things start falling apart. As hard as it might be to do, I just think it would be invaluable to have that in place, that we actually as a group live with the same integrity we're trying to live with as individuals. So that's the main piece I bring that I want to add. And I really appreciate it and I'm exceedingly honored to be asked to speak.
Methodist Women and Link. After World War II, the United Methodist Church Women's Fund had accumulated a sizable amount. The Methodist men said, "Let us manage that money for you." But the women answered, "No, we have some plans." To the astonishment, and to some degree the horror of the men, the Methodist women bought 2 buildings. One on First Avenue in New York City, right across from the United Nations construction site, and the other in Washington, D.C., on Maryland, across 2nd Street from the Dirksen Senate office building. For 70 years, these 2 buildings have offered low rent to nonprofit organizations to work for justice and peace at the United Nations and in the halls of Congress. These buildings were a great investment, a great gift to us all. The other day I was explaining the meaning of the word edify to a young friend, and I am indeed edified by the Methodist women. But their story continues. In the 1970s, the Methodist Conference told the Methodist women that they could no longer manage their own money separate from the conference. The women acquiesced, but they asked that a woman be assigned to oversee the use of the Women's Fund, and they reminded the conference that the money had been raised to benefit women, and children. The conference agreed. But soon there were again no women in the fund management offices of the UMC. There was questionable use of the money, too. And then an African bishop used some money from the Women's Fund to build a cathedral on the grounds that women and children would pray there. The Methodist women asked to regain management of their fund, and the Methodist Conference agreed. I tell you, Link members, this story because these Methodist women were bold. They are bold. They had vision. They have vision. And they have faced vicissitudes. I think it helps us in our journey to remember and honor the journeys of other groups of women, today, the Methodist women.
The best thing about this meeting is that so many members of Link have chosen to be a part of the conversation. It indicates a desire to get started, to define ourselves, and to look at our mission. It makes me ask myself, why am I here? I think I'm here because I'm a realist. I see that religious life as it exists in its present form is no longer appealing, especially to young people. But the ideals, the values, the hopes that it strives to fulfill are very much in the hearts of people who really care about other human beings. The Sisters of Loretto may or may not cease to exist, but the thirst for peace and justice will live on, a living flame in the heart of every member of Link and all those with whom we are in contact. All of us and those who come after us can help to carry that flame forward. My sense is that this is the gathering of people eager to be a part of something new, eager to get moving with ways to work for justice and peace. Many of you are already part of organizations or groups that do that. It is here in this gathering that we will gain ideas, support, and strength to continue striving to establish peace and justice in whatever situation we are in. We will struggle. It won't be easy, but we will have each other to walk with us on this journey. My hope is that this group will be the new Loretto when the congregation is no longer able to move forward. I firmly believe that it will attract young people as we move ahead and find ways to include others who are not members of the Loretto community. It will become our responsibility to encourage that. We are taking baby steps now, but taking them together. We are trying to create something fresh and new ways of governing ourselves, new ways of connecting and getting to know each other at great distances, new ways of forming ourselves as a faith-based community that will act out of love because we know that we are loved by a God who shares our dreams of peace and justice for all. In the process of evolution, humanity is meant to be on a projection upward, though in the present political situation, it may seem to be spiraling downward. But if you look at the underside, you will see people doing amazing things for one another, helping immigrants along their journey, caring for an elderly neighbor, or spending time with a lonely person, driving persons with no other means of transportation, cleaning up neighborhoods damaged by storms, distributing items at food banks, giving money to important causes, protesting unjust treatment, and on and on and on. This is what it means to be truly human, to relate to one another, to serve one another, to love one another. Link can be and is already a part of that groundswell of what humanity is meant to be. This is the real world that our God envisions for us. It is a world in which we work for justice and act for peace because the gospel urges us.
We end tonight with hope and promise. Cecily Jones's poem, The Porch of Possibility. She wrote it in 2015 for the Loretto Assembly, which was an election assembly. It speaks of the present, as Cecily always did, and alludes to the past, but perhaps more importantly for tonight, presents expectation for the future. The poem begins with a quote from Emily Dickinson. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors. Emily Dickinson, 1862. Like the dawn that wrestles us awake, or dusk enfolding us, without our ushering or consent, the future boldly comes, not missioned grandly to its making. Willy-nilly it will arrive. We must plumb the possible where deeds and dreams abide. With Emily, keep window count, though not to tally score, but more as way to visit the beyond, to hear the lilt of Kathmandu, Charleston, the Sudan, to hold to heart Ramadi, Syria, Ukraine, where lives and homes and livelihoods are cauldroned in the pain. To see the shrink and scar of earth, the choke of soiled streams, diminished kin of forests, fields, hear Gaia's anguished keen. With Emily, revere the doors and let them stand ajar, or fling them back in hope and hospitality. With hasps all made of welcome and hinges of secure, inclusiveness their lintel beams, a threshold of belong. If password were required to claim this residence, then trust would be the signet for Mary's friends and friends. On porch of possibility, the spirit gently bides as windows focus vision and doors keep swinging wide.